Michael, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Well, pleased to be here.
We're back again for another
Jerry.
Matthew and Jerry show. This is great. Another Jawbox session here today with Jerry White, Jawbox Jerry himself. And this series is called Hospitality Legends, and you've been pumped up big time as a hospitality legend.
No, well, I've been on the street for a while.
You've been about.
I have.
How long have you been at the Crown?
I'll be 36 years there this Thursday.
Wow.
That's unbelievable. And because hospitality itself, the very nature of the job, people tend to move from bar to bar. So 3 to 4 years is usually what you expect.
That's it.
And you're there tenfold then.
And anybody coming to their 30s that just give up and look for something else.
Yeah. And you were in Europa before you started in the Crown.
I was indeed, Jerry. That was my first footsteps, if you want to call it, into it, and done everything. It was just the general gopher.
Yeah.
You know, cloakroom attendant, it ended up being the washing dishes. You done it, and that was just your grounding.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And then what I found really interesting, and just maybe just for the time that we're in, you held off starting in the Crown for a week because you had tickets for a Tina Turner concert.
I did indeed. Yes, that's true.
There's a man's done his research.
So you were supposed to start, and then
it was actually this day 36 years ago. It was a Monday. I started at 10 o'clock.
And I should just start.
And that was a 10 to 5. I think he was good to me, but I ended up double shift at the weekend. You know, I think they wanted me to start because it was the bank holiday weekend then, and I says no, I was away. You know.
And was that the concerts you played in Dublin?
It was Break Every Rule.
Yes,
that was in the
I'm
RDS.
really sure I was at that myself.
Oh, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Paul Brady done support, I think.
Who?
Paul Brady.
Probably did, and I couldn't remember. You know, I was more interested in seeing her strutting her stuff across the stage. You know, and then it was another 2 shows after that I went to see. I was hooked on it. You know,
no, she was brilliant, an unbelievable entertainer.
Nearly every bloody artist I've seen that it all died.
You know, right, okay. Scud as well as Celebrity Barman.
You know.
So you sent through a quote, right? You said there's bartenders and there's bartenders that work in bars. Talk to me.
It's just as people give up, as we were just talking about. Bartenders are just that person, the eyes and ears, aren't we? Listen to every woe and foe, and not give the best advice, but you know, you just go along.
You're always
You're always ear to the ground. You know, as much as they say about they're talking about barbers, you know, getting people to talk and hearing about people's, you know, just to alert them and different things, but bartenders are like that. But don't know everything. But you know, you do learn life skills. You know, and I think at an early age when I was started in the Europa, woke me up to life really. You know, because I was a quiet wee lad like, but it was, you know, it's a profession in a way. You know, people they wouldn't class it as a trade back in the day, but it is a trade and it should be more recognised for it, you know. People shouldn't swan off from it, and as you know yourself, Jerry, from managing and stuff, there's people do have that skill, they can manage and do well out of it, and there's people that are good at being the person about the bar, or, you know, can
because I mean that's
a swagger, you know.
Yeah, that's a unique skill in itself, which I think we with the other sort of job exercises we were doing and talking to other people in hospitality, unfortunately it's something with younger people coming into hospitality, it's just something that they've lost a wee bit, that interaction that you get with the customers. And you've been doing it that long now, it's just natural to you.
It is,
and you're like, I don't want to, but you're old school.
Yeah, well, that's what you would class that. But I was old school teaching, so going back like from 1985 when I started working in Europa, and it happened by chance that there was a vacancy going in the Crown, and I applied for it and got it, you know. And I remember there was 2 interviews I got right away, and I'm always told that by Colin that works with me that. You came in and you were like Rupert de Burr. you check jacket and check trousers, you know.
Unreal.
That was the style then, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I came in. You wouldn't see young ones coming in now with a shirt, or a young lad coming in with a, you know, suited.
Yeah.
You know, they're just coming in with a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, you know. So your first impression does last if you want to. And my uniform that I wear in work is iconic. You'll see on the photographs and stuff like that there. And the amount of people I'd be asked, much as your waistcoat going for, or like that waistcoat, and the Yanks, especially these cruise ships coming in, they would just trail it off your back, because of the token and all being on it, and
exactly,
the logo of the bar. And back in the day, we were all wearing waistcoats and aprons and stuff, but now it's, there's black and white. I think it's nice.
But it has got a lot more casual now.
It has, and I think that's it gives you the, what do you call it? I'm forgetting the word I'm going to say here. No, it's gone in my head.
But I mean, the Crown was always a bar that you wanted to work in, wasn't it? Because even back then it was still an iconic bar.
It was, yes, iconic. I would have seen it from the Europa, looking over, never thought I would be there, but I got the job there, and I haven't looked, maybe from the upbringing, and I would see my dad in and out of work and things like that, and the struggle. And I remember when I told him I got the job, he said, "You stick by it, son," and that was it. My dad worked in catering, and then 70s, he couldn't really, the hotels were getting blasted left, right and centre. He used to work in the middle in the Grand Central and years ago when he first started off, and I think it just might have been in my blood to do it. I left school, I went to ITP like any other 16-year-old, and you wanted to learn a trade. There was no work. You just couldn't get you couldn't get the apprenticeship unless you, depending on whatever foot you kicked with, you got in, and hospitality seemed to be the trade more, I would say it, bluntly, Catholics would have fell into. Anybody I met in Europa or from the markets were from the Falls, and there were a great bunch of people. And then until I started working in the bar, and it was more or less the same. It was only over a lot of years now. You do see, it's cash for young ones now. I've seen some young ones coming in and out. They've done well. They're educated now. They're either students. The full time part of it, aspects of it all, and the 0 hours and all. I'm still lucky to have a 39-hour set week. Alone, but don't do as many nights now. Maybe it's my age. But it's good.
So what is it about, as a twofolder, right? What is it about the profession itself, the trade itself, that has kept you in it? And then what is it about the Crown that's kept you there?
The profession, every day is different. I think every day, you just don't take one day for granted. You know yourself, especially our place, like it's Groundhog Day. You look up and there's a different face. You still get your local coming in and out, Billy or Sammy coming in from over the road or whatever, or somebody coming in from Carrick just to get their pint of Guinness or whatever. You still have that regular crowd coming in and out, but without that regular crowd coming out, and especially after in COVID and all, you were getting a lot of people coming into Belfast. They'd never been they'd never been in the Crown, and they were marvelled by the glasswork and the snugs and everything else about the bar, the history about the bar, but it's now, you were dragging people in then, and then they had that difficulty of having to seat people and stuff. Yourself, Jerry, there just before you finished in the shoot. It was just, I was desperate. But now it's, and then really since the Good Friday Agreement, you've seen the gradual change over the years. I mean, the influx of people coming in and out,
come back into the city centre.
And and the city centre's like, it is booming. Like, I remember in the nightlife in the Golden Miles, they called it, and it was you walked on up the street, and then you had Harvey's restaurant, and then you went on round the Dublin Road, you had the elbow rooms. But everybody just seemed the Crown was either the first port of call or the last port of call, because the bus station was only across the street.
And just even the position where the bar is, because you've got like the Opera House across the road.
That's it.
So, and then obviously that's where a lot of the famous people would have come in, because you were only there your first week or something, and you were serving a pint to Brad Pitt.
No way. I met Brad Pitt.
That doesn't happen every day.
No, it doesn't. There was amount of people, even local stars. I've known Gordon Burns from the Crippen Factor days, from working in the bar, and he still comes in and out, and gives me a wee nod for a call and of course, everybody knows Charlie Lawson, but, I know him as a friend just coming in and out. I don't follow whatever he likes. I may like some things. And his wife's Debbie, as you know yourself, she does mountains of charity work and stuff like that there. Lovely girl, and she just loves me to bits, And funny enough, it was actually at a 60th birthday party up in the house, along with Michael Stewart and that. And I felt privileged even to be asked, hello. When they went round the family, where you going, but I just know Charlie is Charlie, and of course over the years now, knowing Jimmy Nesbitt over 25 years, and he gave me a TV break in Cold Feet.
That's right. You had a cameo role in Cold Feet.
I got my cameo role. Yep. I was asked to say something like "Catch Yourself On" or something to David Bathwaite, their Bathworth, whatever you call him. And he came in, the big snobby English one, 3 pints you're fine, he's Guinness. And I looked at him as if he had 2 heads, so set up the Guinness and stuff like that. Him and John Thompson and that were in. That was a marvellous day, for 3 minutes, and it took about 7 hours to do,
to get those, that's
mental. All the BBC ones were coming in and out, and Alf Garnett, he came in, he was overdoing So You Think You've Got Troubles. I think it was around about the late 80s, maybe early 90s, and he was he was alright, but he didn't like me. Like, it's the comedians that give a joke, but they don't like taking a joke. And he turned around and said to me, then I used to have a gold crown. And you get up in Brasso, I says, like, you get up and get the bick across your head in the mornings, and that just didn't go down. And like a lead balloon with him, and he didn't get that boy away from me, and all that there, and that was it. All I was doing was just standing in the background, supposedly with a lemonade, with a slice of lemon in it, and getting full with Bacardi, so there's no Joe box then.
That's right. So, I mean, talk to me about the history of the place, because it's one of those real iconic Belfast spots.
It is. Firstly, it was the Railway Tavern, and I think I'm going to go blank now. It was known as the Railway Tavern before it was taken over by Flanagan, and they took it over in around 1849 when the bar was established from Felix O'Hanlon, and he named it the Crown. And the old story of being him and her having the argument over the name of the bar, they all said. But I found leading the lady as a Catholic. He's actually buried in St Patrick's in Banbridge, and it was one of his sons or something was studying architecture and thought this was a great idea to do up the family business with these Italian craftsmen were actually in Ireland at the time to build the churches and cathedrals around the city centre, and they were now up to do a bit of moonlighting, so they got to fitted out the bars, very churchy looking, as you can know yourself, Jerry, coming in and out, and all the confession, all the wee snugs were all putting bars down for a person of wealth or a lady didn't want to be seen drinking. So this is all before the suffragettes, really. You wouldn't have really seen a woman. And then the Crown being what it is on the corner of the street had a side door, so women would have came in more so through a side door and into one of the snugs and got their service. And of course there's the wee bells that they would have rang, and there's the alphabet A to J, which is hilarious when people ask you, what's the A to J, sir? What's that mean? All the Yanks coming in, and I says, well, you see A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Around here was a red light area at one stage. Yeah. You're what? I says, a red light, brothel. He says, upstairs was a hotel at one stage before. He says, and they rented out the rooms. But sometimes, I would say to them, the women didn't have the money for the rent for the room that they used to snug. He says, and each snug is named after each. So A was Annabelle, B was Bertha, C was Charlie, D was Dolores. Oh God, that's great, man! They believe you. So it's only a joke, folks.
But I mean, obviously around that area was very much a...
Well, they had the railway station across the street then, and it was, as I say, in the Railway Tavern. It was like the focal point, and then as the years go through, 1947 being the big thing, the film, The Old Man Out.
That's right, yeah.
James
Mason, was that?
Starred James Mason. F.L. Green, he was a novelist, and he he, what do you call it? He might have stayed and sat in the Crown,
Yeah.
and wrote a couple of chapters. Might have been where he used the film. And then they did the bar in the film where they reconstructed the whole bar
Yeah.
and Dagenham. And there's a still of it down at the bottom end of the bar. Now Mason isn't in it, but people still think Robert Newton is James Mason. Ah, there he is. He's not. And then there's first Doctor Who's in it, Hartnell, and of course the Irish actor Cyril Cusack, who I met way back in '89. Whenever the bar was going through its one of those, might have been a centenary or something or other, and he was invited in. I think it might have been something to do with the National Trust opening up and all that. I know Angela Rippon and I opened it up in '81 or something like that there. The National Trust actually took over the bar in 1978.
Yeah.
So they did for the bar, as you know as yourself, for the old photographs when you look at it, it was in disarray. You know, the Phoenix O'Hanlon was the last. They were the Hanlons. They were the last. McGeaney, sorry, it was McGeaney family. They were the last family that owned the bar, and nobody really had passed it on. Of course, 70s, Belfast was going through the conflict, terrorism, stuff like that. There's nobody doing, no bank was going to payroll anybody, and only for Sir John Betjeman, the poet laureate, coming to Belfast on marvels of the Crown Law and all. So we have to buy this place and we have to get this place. So through him, only going through it, it worked, didn't it? So it worked. So Bass Ireland, as you know yourself, Jerry, through the years when they were up in the West, they intervened, and then there was the agreement, so they had the 100-year lease, and these never-ending leases. So they more subsidised, paid the rent and stuff like that there. And then through the years, it changed hands. Monopolies and mergers, and breweries couldn't own the amount of stuff in the 90s, so it was Tories again for you. So we came 6 continents, and then it went into the hands of M&B, and they were still the umbrella branch of the thing. So that's who I work for, is Mitchells and Butler, and the Crown is owned by the National Trust, and all they do is just pay for the upkeep of the building, really. As I say, the bar, 90% of it's still original. The windows, God, they've had their share.
Yeah, but the amount of bombs that went off in the Europa Hotel across the road, it's surprising that any of it's still left at all.
Well, the last big bomb was only 30 years ago, and in the 20th of May. It actually was 30 years since the big bomb had hit Glencall Street, Grand Opera House in Europa, and you know yourself, the Europa. Hastings got it at a bargain, didn't he? 8 million or 6 million or something at then, but nobody knew if it was going to reopen again. And then next minute, there's but put a big facade in this here, boys, decorated it up, and then it's going through, and it's hit its centenary 8 years. They've done it up again, but great building, an iconic building of Belfast, really, and. Of course, the Crown did suffer all that damage. Like the panes of glass alone, back then, you're talking nearly £100,000, probably to do, like 30 years ago. I hate to pay for it now because one of the snow panes was damaged there at the beginning of the year. £1,500 just for a wee pane of glass. Now, it's just no bigger than the pint glass.
Because suppose it would all be handcrafted.
It had to be handcrafted, planished, painted, and then the £1,500 just
madness,
just to replace.
I must admit, the last big restoration that the bar had, it was done beautifully.
It was
just unbelievable.
2-6, that was the smoking ban.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
the smoking ban came in, and then that's when they jumped on it.
Cleaning the ceiling and all, and
that
was unbelievable.
They're supposed to be started and all, but. Because of COVID, they've missed a year, so they could be, I think, maybe starting this autumn, and I'll be scaffolding back up with, I laugh, it's always P. O'Neill, scaffolding, and we all know who P. O'Neill was, telephone call to P. O'Neill, So, it's the photographs that prove it, scaffolding, so that'll all go up again, and a lot of work was done then, the fennials and stuff that had to be done was done. Roof and things like that there, and just general maintenance. There's a lot of tiles at the front that were damaged and stuff, and the factory's still going in Stoke. They're just outside Derby or somewhere around there, in the Pottery Andrew anyway. Somewhere makes freaking tiles. So You're able to get the pigments and stuff like that there, and all they do is get plastered in. These experts come in, you know, they're a great bunch of people, you know. Like the cleaning of the ceiling, they take up to 8 to 10 weeks, and they were lying on their back with a drop of pneumonia and water and cotton buds,
And
Q-tips.
cotton buds, yeah. I mean, I remember seeing photos.
In and out. And the bar was divided off, and there was a big white sheet. It was like the new peace wall. And everybody was just coming in and writing. We didn't mind them writing on it because nothing worse than the snugs getting scored.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing worse than it. You know, people think it's a laugh and I was here, blah blah blah. Yes, there may have been stuff done probably from the 80s or whatever, 90s, and then really since the tourism boom of the ships, you know, people think it's great just to score. We were here in our hen and all this, or we were here in our stag. You know, it's not nice to see because it costs us money in the end. Totally, and everybody moaning about the price of pints, you know. So you know, and it costs the fella comes in to do like I went to school with him. He comes in and French polishes them all down every few weeks, like, you know. You put signs up, sure, in one. You know, they read the sign. And I caught an old fellow in the 70s. He was an American. Hey boy, what are you doing? You know, and I was surprised he didn't have a heart attack and I had to phone the ambulance for the Royal or something. You know, and here shit himself. I swear to God. He says, just fixing this up. Fixing what up? He says, somebody's wrote their name. I just want to make it clear. He says, get the fuck out. Take your paint with you. Lifted it off. He looked at me. I'm sure he went back to wherever he was. You know, that was some reception I got in the Crown, but then, you know, people just don't have it.
Yeah, no.
You know?
And you were saying there, like, about the Troubles and all the bombs and off, and I remember reading somewhere, I think it was an interview you done with the Telegraph, that there was, yous were put out in the bomb scare.
Aye.
And by the time the police sort of said, right, everything's hoax, everything's back, yous were all too black to open up the bar.
Aye, because the only bar, well, the Jackson was going then.
Yeah.
And it was closed. You had Drury Lane. It was closed, and of course Robinson's next door, and the big dock at Night Brennan's, it was closed, and we were closed. And so the only place you could go to was round to the Wash.
Yeah.
And we went up to the Wash, and that was it. And it was in an hour. So we come back, and I remember Billy going, "Oh boys, you have to come back round." And now Kearney, he was actually off, and we were full. You know, it was great crack. You know, you wouldn't get that. You would do anything now on a busy night for the soldier, or it was you or whatever, the police to come in and say, lads, you're going to have to clear the place. There's an incendiary across the street. Yeah. Happy days. You know, paints are down all over the counter, and then there are people lifting their glasses, and then the cheek of them come back the next day. I left my paint here last night, mate. There's a con there. He says, "Aye, come on. I never seen you." And, you know.
Well, I've come across that. People coming in and saying, I never got a chance to finish my pint last night because we were put out and what. And then, so the title Celebrity Barman, Michael Celeb Barman, that came from a radio DJ from City Beat or something. Or
Mark Lima. And I think, I forget his other, his mate, it was co-host at the end. And they just said, "Go here, Celebrity Barman again," and there's something like that. Yeah. But I've used it then, Celeb Barman Mick, you know, so it stuck, you know.
And were you helping did it start by you helping a damsel in distress outside Europa whose car broke down or something?
Well,
that sounds like a very informed guest.
He's been doing his research.
That's an educated guest.
He on the phone to McDonald or something, you know. Sunday World, have the mug, still have the mug. It's as priceless as a Jawbox gin mug. It is, you know. So I have the Sunday World mug for it. Some nurse going home. I was dropping. Of course, I had the car and going up west. Of course, I live north. And the north fellow was me, North, and John, God rest him. He was my. He was just in my whip. Get you that done, son. You do it this way. You know, you know yourself. You jump when you were told to do it. Now you couldn't turn around and say at the kids in the bar. You know, I got my money for you. So we were going home up the West Link. Surprised it was opened before the Falls and the Balls, and we were coming along. Next minute, was seeing this girl. The hazard lights, especially at Belfast then. But sure, there was no fear then because really, you know, if it had been in England, it would have been, you know, different scenarios, you know. So over here, but pulled the car up. It's a bit hesitant, but she's seen the uniforms anyway. And we got chatting. She says, "I have a flat tire or something like that there." So he ended up changing our tire for her. And of course, John knew Jim McDowell. Got on the phone because McDowell, you know, the press boys would have come in and out of the bar, and I was only getting to learn this and all that. So me and him got a photograph in the paper, and I got the mug. For being, you know, and it was a damsel in distress helping it. It was a nurse. She just finished off duty, coming out of the Royal, like, you know. So it was nice to do. I was only
and that was all part of the story then for the celeb.
I was only about 19 or 20 then, you know, but, you know, that was like one of my first deeds.
Yeah, you talk about being a young lad and starting, you know, working in the bar and that you kind of get exposed to, I don't want to say the reality of life, but you get exposed to the lives that lots of different people live. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, different backgrounds and everything. Like, what was that experience like as a young lad coming in and just all of a sudden you're chatting to these 40-year-olds, you're chatting to these 50-year-olds, you're chatting to these 60-year-olds?
It's just you got to know, especially the ones in the BBC and that, and there's great friends. Fellas would have been coming in and out, and there might have been work was scarce for a lot, and they probably fellas, some women, like, you know, they found solace in the bar to read their paper or whatever. You know, and like there's some locals he still comes in and out, and there was a great crowd among all the BB. It was like the second club to them, you know, before there was a bit of a fallout whenever at the old Lennon Hall, there was a bit of a fallout among this crowd, and they all started to come into the bar, and I got to know them. And as I say, I got my wee TV careers and my, you know, we're doing an extra, you know. As much as I loved to have done, put my face forward to do what do you call it, Game of Thrones and stuff. You just couldn't, you know, because it was full time, getting time off and all. So you got to know. You get to know people, you know, and next minute you were going to parties, you know, and, you know, when you found out these people were, you know, good crack and whatever, and sadly some of them aren't here. You've been to their funerals and all, and you shared the good times with these people. I hope I'm answering these questions right for you. But no, and they've been good to me, you know, and that's our way of thanks. Yeah. Maybe I want to, you know, doing bits and pieces, and as I say, things have changed now, you know, we would have had all the boys coming out, all the mechanics coming over from the Ulster bus, and we used to have the Peace Border International. It was the head chief of staff was Freddie Hunter, you know, you remember Freddie from Bass, and he would have come in, and I never forget this crowd coming in November, you know, what was it, the wine, you know what. That comes out in November is Beaujolais.
Oh yes, Beaujolais.
So we used to call them Beaujolais International, you know, and they would have come in, and they were all great crack. They're all old business, and I think there's only one of them now. Only he's the only one who comes in out of the crowd. But these boys all worked in Windsor House, then, which is 90 Grand Central, you know, all the insurance companies and all. They're a great bunch of people, you know, and I've got to know them. It's like they're over 30 odd years. I'm still seeing people, and then I'm getting people coming in. I've been living away, and, you know, I haven't seen you since, and you haven't changed, you know. It's, you know, it's great that way. You know?
Yeah. I don't know if I've talked to you about this before, but I've heard people make comparisons between a bar and a church, and just when you were saying, Michael, about, you know, the Italian craftsmen coming in and, you know, putting the pews in and their snugs and all that sort of stuff. Like it's like almost that third place where it's not your work, it's not your home.
Well, it's funny now, because when you were talking about the snugs, you almost said confession box.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, it is that church thing where people go in and say, "That's you, my son." And people do. I mean, like, I know from my time behind the bar, and you get a punter sitting in front of you in the quiet day, and you have the time to have a good conversation with them. It's amazing some of the stuff people will tell you. You know, I mean, I remember the loveliest man in the world, and very, very poshly spoken, always extremely well dressed. And he was telling me, he says, you know, Jerry, he says, I used to be in the game myself. Used to have a lovely pub in London, and it just didn't work out. And I said, well, what happened? he said, "We weren't really making any money. We were busy every day," and I couldn't understand it. And then I found out that the bastard that I had as my manager was bringing in his own till. And, so your mom was just and he was such a nice
plenty
natured guy,
as I say,
you know, and. So, and I got his whole story about how he went out of business and then sort of got back on his feet again and started up
you
again.
were saying, but that's how staff were always going bar to bar because there were some sicky fingers.
There was
Really?
a lot of that.
You know, see now, the tells you don't fart and the frigging thing will frigging catch you up.
Everything's registered.
You know, they're so sensitive to screens now, the tells, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's cameras everywhere.
Cameras
as well.
now, cameras everywhere, you know, and you have to watch. You do have to watch, like, and you wouldn't see it now. Back in the day, you would have.
Well, back in the day, it used to be said that if you ran a bar and if you didn't have your own bar within 10 years, you were far too honest. So it was.
There you are, 36 years.
You're an honest man.
Hopefully counting. Touch wood. But sure, the crack, like, different things that were on in that bar, like, you know, Frank Dignall. You know Frank.
Yeah.
Hi, Mickey, how are you? It's Tuesday. And now Tuesday was Brian Houston. He was the PR up at Bass.
That's right.
What a gentleman. What a gentleman. Always every Irish Cup day. And Frank would have come in, you know. He says, it's Tuesday. And here's me. No, he's not in yet. Oh, give us a pint of Bass. Put him up a pint of Bass in Houston. And he would have went up the bar. Brian. He's in, because I wouldn't say he was in or not, because Brian had already tipped me off. He would have been hiding up behind one of the partitionals, and he says, your man's in. Well, you know yourself, but Frank was the accountant up there, so he would have looked after their books, you know, and God rest him, what a soul, like, you know, and he says, give him whatever he wants, you know. Kind of a double VAT, one name, and a ginger ale. He says, I'm putting on Tuesday's book. Before he even said it, he says, what are you looking to drink? He knew.
Yeah.
He knew he was in, and then before you knew, they were all together. Like, because Irish Cup Day, Bass sponsored it then, and the entourage came in, and it was always nearly every year. Tuesday was in, and of course he supported Linfield, and it was his jolly, like, really, you know, a day out. Of course, when you had the big two playing together, he had more because you know, good connections that way. And what a sound fella, but Frank was great crack, you know, coming in and out of the bar. And as I said, others, like, even some of the regulars, you know, you have known over the years, and they've gone on to do marvellous things, like, you know.
And I think you were saying somewhere, it was just even the characters and the regulars come in, but people from all different walks of life. So you could have had a surgeon sitting talking to a bricklayer and being the best of mates and getting on, and plenty of conversation between them. Because it was such a mix of people.
Well, politics was another thing you had to try to keep hush-hush in a bar, like, you know, but it can't be helped, can it? You know, so you have the baker, the candlestick maker, and they're all together, you know, and that's the novelty of having the snugs. People nowadays that hug a snug. The old tradition, if the door was closed, yes, privacy. If it was open for all, and you can't get it into people. You know, you can't try to snug. They want you to take them there.
Right.
All right, you can, but the business has changed now. You know, the way we work now, if you grab a table and you come up to a bar, just like the way they do in most bars, and you place your order, pay for it, and you take a seat, and then we bring it to you. You know, or you stand at the bar and have your pint or your halfing or whatever it is, and people just don't want to mix.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of COVID, but before that, and you remember, God rest Bernie, he used to run our floor, and then after that was Elaine. The snugs would have had, most snugs would hold about 10 people, 12 people, and you would have had them in, and this is all before computers, writing it all down, and knew whose five were getting that, and everyone, and I was alright at the beginning, because before it was all PLU buttons. You were able to remember 101 was a pint and it was only 97p. That's going back. So you knew it was all, and now it's all touchscreen and all, and you between touchscreen and you just hit the products. Nobody, you know, you're not really mentally tattling everything all up in your head, but some wagers, and I think I've learned even from them ones, you know.
It's funny because the Crown is that old school, old type of bar, where it is focused on the bar.
That's right.
Because there's no tables and chairs in the middle of the floor. There's a snugs or you sit at the bar. And I think the biggest thing that COVID hit was that you weren't allowed to stand at the bar.
That's right. But you were allowed to stand at the bar, but you were allowed to sit at the bar. You weren't allowed to stand. That's the crack of it now. Right. So you weren't allowed to stand at the bar and have your drink, but you could have a seat which was placed directly beside the bar.
Right.
But you
Yeah.
must sit it. It had to be seated
you're right,
whenever
yeah.
in the COVID, and it was so. Even the manager thought it was so. Because whenever up in the hill where Mr. Swan, like, he done well. I must admit, give applaud that man, you know, for what he done, like. But they coming out more so than what they done in England, like. But you know, and each, because we're owned by a British company, each region, Scotland was completely different to us, and we were completely different. We were ahead of them, and they were behind us, and you know, and we were always ahead of everybody, like, you know. So everybody was learning how to, and then that thing about your password, and you know, you can't come in if you haven't booked your table. No, you have to go.
Right, yeah.
And funny enough, Jimmy was out. Jimmy Nesbitt, he was out with his family, and he took it. He understood.
Yeah.
Oh, way on over the Europa he came. He hasn't fell out of us because he's back in again, as you know.
Because he knew it was out of your control.
It was out of our
It wasn't,
control.
yeah.
But there were some people that were just so nasty about it.
Yeah.
Aye.
So nasty, like it was like through the dummy of the thing. You know, look, all I'm doing is asking you. What you know, they were they were 3 difficult years.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. During that time, it certainly, without any doubt, brought out the best in people and the worst in people.
Oh, it did.
I mean, some of the things that I seen, the way people spoke to staff or just treated our people was unreal, unbelievable. I'd never witnessed anything like it.
Like we get bar, you know yourself, around the town, most bars will get minimum rate. Some bars will get that wee extra 50p more, or whatever. But maybe that's what puts kids off, wanting to keep on it. You know, unless you're thick-skinned, you know, you'll survive. Yeah. Really, you know, really, if you're thick-skinned, you'll survive. Like, I'm not that thick-skinned, but you know, to me, it's a job. You know, and I love it.
Yeah.
And then when you were saying there about the area around Europe and the train station, the Crown being a red light district, and the Crown had its own prostitute or woman of the evening, Amelia.
Oh, Amelia the ghost.
Who was murdered in the bar.
She was murdered. She apparently went down the stairs and out through a window by her pimp.
Right.
And I remember we had a seance, you know, let's all touch fingers and thumbs. And I forget the name of the company, Ulster Paranormal Society or something like that there it was. And they came round, the next man, this is what you done. I thought Johnson's baby talk was getting put around the tables, right? And there was marbles getting rolled up. And then they done, they all touching the fingers, you know, and I'm telling you what, they done 2, but the second one, brilliant, because he came in then with all these heat lamps and things like this, because they knew they were onto something. And next minute, this wee radio came out. This is a Frank Buck or some name. And what I done was go up and down and spit out. And I tell you what, it was the most frightening to me. I can't watch horror films, but I was intrigued by all this shit, you know. And it was spitting out, and it spat out the name of what you call the boyo. They threw her down the stairs now. And then they went up on the top of the stairs.
Right.
And then there wasn't a window or nothing open. There was no vents or extractors on. Somebody felt a cold blow right behind their ear. You know, like it wasn't dark or anything. Yeah. And they were like that. Apparently it was his presence and all this here he was about this pimp fella, you know. So we were walking around it instead of getting in case I get pushed down the stairs, you know. But they went down the stairs at a table, and it was just a wee round table where you were sitting, it sat in one of the snugs before they put a flap table on, and it sat in there, and it sat one end of the bar, and we ended up from the front door to the side door. It trailed us up the bar. I was exhausted, and you know, your wee Stevie Webb, he was there, and he was out of puff. I think he never experienced something like that. There was definitely, you know, it was pitch dark. Yeah. You know, there was a bit of light, but we knew that we were moving, and there was nobody had lifted this table because it dragged. And it was a cast iron.
And those are the big cast iron tables?
Yeah, those wee round with the cast iron. And it dragged away up the floor. And I was virtually spun round to my right.
My God.
you know.
And is there ever anything lately?
There hasn't been anything since, and sure somebody's listening to this here they will, but you can go on the YouTube. You can just go on the YouTube, Crown Ghost, you know, and you'll Google it up there and you'll see it. It was great. That was, God, it must have been well over 10 years ago, you know, and the ones who've done it now, they were genuine, and they'll the usual, they will bless it and keep her, all this here. And it wasn't a religious meeting like or anything like that there, but it's just grace of God, look over us all and all that shit. And this was fascinating, you know, but for, as I say, I couldn't sit and watch a gory film, no way, but this year was...
And you were in the middle
you know,
of this.
when I was 5, I was hiding behind the sofa whenever Doctor Who was on, you know, and the Daleks came out, or the Cybermen, you know, but it was great.
It's interesting, like, you've been able to experience so much and meet so many people. You know, the world has been brought to you. That's what I think's cool about it. You know, it's not like you're flying to every single country in the world. It's like every single country in the world's just coming to you.
They're coming to me, and they do. There's people that have come back. You were here about 3 years. And I was me. Yeah, it's still me. You know, I've grew a beard, like, but it's still me. You know, and I must be guaranteed. I must be on everybody's phone in every continent.
Sure, yeah, 100%.
Easy.
Because, I mean, well, at the end of the day, you've, in a sense, you're becoming an ambassador for Belfast to many people. Because, I mean, a lot of people, I know when I go on holiday, a lot of the best memories that I have is a bar that I've visited, and I've really liked the bar. But there might have been an outstanding bar person who was just so good about telling you where to go in that city. If it's a city you've never been to before, I'll give you recommendations for restaurants or theatre or anything.
That's true,
so
Jerry.
You do become an ambassador for the city, and obviously you're so well known. And
I get the staff from we're such and such a place. Now, when I was working in the bar a lot of years back, I was doing a wee bit of courier work, and I got to know about Belfast a wee bit better, but I didn't know streets of town. But there's somebody come in looking for somewhere obscure. I says, it's down around there. And the wee girl was, somebody, she was fascinated, like I knew. Or only the other week, excuse me, I was actually heading home, and two Italians were standing on the corner of Wellington Place, or where the urban retreat is. And I knew fine right, they were baffled, you know. And Andy Watson was walking up the street, and they were him and the young lad who worked so long when we were going for it. Says, you're never out of work, you know. Like, it's like, you know. So they ended up, these folks run, they go, where's St Anne's Cathedral? I says, come on, follow me. And I was going home. Are you getting the bus? Here's me, no, I'm not getting the bus. Like, he could just speak and just speak a wee bit of the lingo, and of course, I don't know if you do, but I put the Del Boy accent on, you know. The Del Boy French or the Del Boy, you know, the broken English, you know. Speak the same way as him, and you get a response some way. And as guaranteed, it was hopeless the languages at school, but it was either Irish or French, or if you went on the upper sixth for somewhere like that there, you could take on Spanish or German.
Yeah.
So I just used to broken, speak down, bring their, everything's got an O on the end of it or whatever. And I brought them all around, floating through Queen's Arcade up around, and got St Anne's, of course, was shut. I says, you go up the street there at St Patrick's, but you'll probably see the same church in Venice.
Yeah, that's so true.
Know? They were from, then he started talking because Florence were playing Inter Milan. He was... they were playing Inter Milan in the cup, and he was talking about where to go. I says, you probably might get it in the bar, some bar, but there might have been another match on or something. I think there might have been one of the Premier matches might have been on the same night, and you might, you know, get it in the bar. I'm sorry I just didn't go and put a couple of quid after meeting them. Of course they won that night. But you do, you're coming in and people are just asking you, and then you get to know all the boys from the Black Taxi ranks, and
like you said, they're parked outside the bar, aren't they?
You know, and they're coming in with people. Hey, Michael, you look after them, would you? Like, what about the other 50 I'm looking after here now, or whatever, you know? And they come in, they bolster you, you know, because, as you say, iconic. It's just a pity none of these little companies that run all these little award ceremonies don't give you an achievement for doing, you know, your services. But, you know, because the tourist board, you know, you are an ambassador for the city.
Totally,
You know,
there's no doubt about it.
you're doing the job. You're directing people to this, and where can I get that? And I'll go down the street there, and you may be able. If not, I'll give you a telephone number. You can contact him. You may be able to get a tour. You're phoning up to say, look, Paddy, I've got our Jim. Somebody here looking a taxi. Can you do it? Can you not? If not, you know, put them through to that number, and they'll be guaranteed. You know, to get
people
someone.
sorted,
You know, which is good.
Yeah.
You know, you can. It's.
And I know, like you were saying there, when you met those tourists and then you walked them around the surrounding state, and Belfast people are very much like that.
We've had that in another job box session, didn't we?
And I know that I have done it where I bumped into tourists and they were looking somewhere, a traditional pub to go for a pint. And I ended up walking them around the Duke of York or John Hewitt or whatever around by that, and ended up staying with them and having a couple of beers with them.
Brilliant.
And they found that amazing.
I probably made their holiday. Like.
Yeah, and Liverpool's very similar. Because that's happened to me in Liverpool.
It's the
I
Irish.
was over, as you know, I'm not big into football, but I was over with Pedro. It was a derby match that he was over. And I went, I'll just go for the crack. And we were asking for directions, and this guy went, he says, sure, I'm not doing that. Come on, I'll go that way with you. And I end up having a couple of pints with him. And we are very, very similar here. Like that.
You are, yeah, but I don't even think wouldn't be the same in Dublin. I don't think the people up in Derry now, or what should I say, it was Stroke City, as the big man would have said. He was a great crack, Jerry. But we're about the same.
Yeah.
I say the same mentality and looking after and helping
I think
people.
Dublin's become so cosmopolitan.
It's that big city. It's that London coldness.
Exactly.
It's seeped in, hasn't it?
It's getting that way.
Belfast will be like that, and I'd say in another maybe 20 odd years, because the young ones nowadays are too busy on their phone. They wouldn't know where to.
I wanted to ask you.
They're probably walking up a street and not knowing they're on that street, you know, with their folks.
I wanted to ask, kind of like, as we start to wrap up, I've got a final question for you, but you talked earlier about like people not mixing anymore in the snugs. That broke my heart. Hearing that.
Give people. It was prior to that, everybody would have just all amongst it. There's people who are just a wee bit. Either they don't want to be sitting there when somebody's eating food, or they just don't want to know. But I met a young girl in the bar, and going back when I only first started there, and I was fascinated. It was only 2 months into the job, or whatever it was. Velcro wallet. Where'd you get that, love? You know, she was in California. Next minute, there's my dress. Just swapped it over. She was finished her nursing degree, and she was touring Europe. You know, Swiss descendant. I happened to go to Belfast. Was up from Dublin, and then when you had a phone box in your bar, she phoned because she wanted to get phoned back to the folks. And could you turn around and tell my mummy, you know, blah blah blah. So tell my mum I'm okay. So I says she's okay, everything's all right in Belfast, blah blah blah. She's in good hands here. She's up seeing the city and all that there. So we kept next minute. I mean, it must have been just 3 months later, or whatever, maybe this package arrived in the door. It was this Velcro wallet. Thank you very much. You know,
That's
here,
so
blah, blah, blah. I still got keep in contact with this girl, right? She invited me out to her wedding then in 1990, and her family put me up for 3 weeks.
Wasn't that lovely?
You know, so that was great. 2 weeks in San Francisco and a week in LA.
It's unbelievable.
You know, and I was told if I had been there a week prior, I could have been down to Vegas and back again for the wedding, or I could have been down the Grand Canyon if I had stayed. But I arrived a week before because you can take in the things, you know. So I flew out on the 12th, and I was panicking because I wanted to make sure I was sitting touching ground on the 13th that year, and it was great. And then of course the perks of the bar, you know, the consulate used to come in and out of the crowd, and. The Paco says to me, he says, just bring your passport round and get it sorted for you. There's no problem. So I brought it round that morning. I was heading into work, and at 5 o'clock I had it. He came back in again for his pint of Guinness, and he
brilliant.
Had a big green stamp on it.
The perks of the job.
Perks of the job, or anybody now, he'd be waiting there months.
Oh my God!
You know, he was the American consulate. I'm still keeping contact with him, and he's been backwards and forwards. He was part of that crowd who would have drank in the old Lennon Hall and all. Yeah. And then they all just seemed to influx.
Sort of
moved around, you know.
Brilliant. Well, the final question is just very simple. If you could go back in time to an 18-year-old version of yourself, you had a few minutes, 18-year-old Michael, a few minutes of his time, what sort of things would you be saying to him?
What, who?
An 18-year-old version of yourself.
Just enjoy life, son. And, you know, take whatever pitfall comes you, because you can always bounce off from it and enjoy life. Really, you know, it's, you know, everybody's going through the same path, you know.
Yeah.
You know, some may take a difficult turning, you know, but just focus on doing what you want to do, and you've done well for yourself,
Yeah.
you know.
And then one that Matthew always asks is, and this will be considering the amount of people that you've served and you've met, but the question we usually
Who do
ask
you want me to
is,
start with? Like, I've met Michael J. Fox, I've met Brad Pitt, Ruby Wax, as I say.
so somebody local, like you've living or dead, that you can bring for a pint to the Crown or whatever, and sit in a snug and have a heart-to-heart conversation with them, living or dead. Who would you love to sit and have that
George
pint
Best.
with?
George Best, if he was still here.
Isn't
You know,
that amazing? Many times his name comes up.
I'm an avid Man United fanatic, and who wouldn't? You know, and I couldn't tell you if he did come into the bar or whatever. People that George Best, I says I wouldn't know.
You would imagine with the amount of time that he spent in the Europa, you would imagine
he made it, but I doubt. I doubt it. You know, he was too. But sure, Higgy was always in and about. You know, I remember when he came in, he busted open the doors, and you know, I'm home. He said, the champion's home. Gave us a bowl of stew, and he got a bowl of stew in the pint, and then right up until before he passed away. I remember him coming into the bar, and your heart went out to him. You knew
must have
how,
broke my the last days that I seen him, because I would have been managing the Mermaid then, he would have come into Mermaid because the wee bookies was.
That's right.
And he'd have been sitting with a whole pile of baiting dockets all around him, and
you know, and
just
sad,
broken
man, you know. And he lived his life. He used to say, what would he have said if he was 18? He probably says, go out and enjoy yourself, you know, which he did. He lived his life to his fullness. And he came in, I remember him coming in, he couldn't manage, it was half a Guinness and a Bacardi and Coke. And he wrote it down, and I'm sorry I never kept that docket, but then again, if he had signed it, he probably wouldn't have done a tenner for it. But we all know it. It's like, you know, I've got to never forget this wee lad coming in, and I said, all right, he's in, I says, but don't, he says, I want him, he says, well, I went over then, I broke the ice, he says, Alex, this fella coming in, he wants you to sing for him as a picture. I tell him to come on in. Freaking charged me a tenner.
he was
you know, he was saying, you know, he was autographs. You know, he was ahead of his time. He probably wanted to go and do, you know, a £10 travel or something. You know, but actually, hard to go. He was a lot. You know, in the end, some people. Then again, he had his sides. He was two-way Declan Hyde about him, but I mean.
And there was different times whenever big sports personalities like George Best and Higgies, they weren't managed the way people are looked after now. Then it was such a weird, just like I always remember the story with George Best in the Europa, and he was getting room service, and when the wee guy came up the room and he went into the room, and George is laying in the bed, Miss Wardle's laying there, empty bottles of champagne then everywhere, Couse laying all over the floor, and the wee guy turned around him and said, George Best, when did it all go wrong?
Oh man.
You know,
and George Best sitting going, what went wrong?
He was thinking I've got this. But Clarkie's even good. Darren, like he's been coming in and out there whenever Alison had the Miss Northern Ireland shows, and Darren's looked after me too. Like getting tickets for the Open and all, like, you know. Yeah. Great fella, you know, and you know, have our banter, you know. I says, you come back, I says, you've won that Open and Liverpool haven't won the league. Neither have, like, you know, I can't use that crowd anymore, you know, but he was great. He's a great fella, you know, and maybe an hour person will have go up even up the Harbour Bar or something. Up the isn't it Willie Jackson? No.
Willie Jack, yeah.
You know, and he's coming in the bar. He knows me to see, you know. Everybody knows you to see, you know, and you know, because you're in the business. Yeah. You know, it's not my business, but you know, I've worked through it.
100%.
You know, and I've seen.
And you're the personality and the character of the bar.
Well, I was said last year when I got my.
I was going to say the spirit of the bar, but You've got big Amelia there, like.
Don't want to be putting Amelia out.
She was apparently she was a 19-year-old good-looking woman. That's what came through on the. It came through, aye. But it's just, even Colin, I work with, he's been there.
40 years.
He's 40 years. You know, Colin's he's in the background, but he, tell you what, he's some stories he get.
Yeah.
He's always said, we'll write the book, he says, and I have the stories, you've got the pictures. You know, because God help anybody that does come in, they go away from Belfast with me in the Crown.
Yeah.
Because, excuse me, can you take a photograph of us? Aye, no problem. Aye, switch it round. Yes, man. There's a load out there for it, and then you could be walking over the bar. Next minute they're busting out laughing, especially a crowd of girls coming over for a weekend, or whatever. And I would always take a photograph. I says, or the Americans or whatever. I says, keep that in your gate at Halloween. I'll just keep the kids away. You know, but they all.
And have you found a big change in the customers that the Crown's now attracting?
Aye, definitely. You know, we have the walking tours coming in, the walk in the door and out the door.
Yeah.
And punters, is this really happening? Here's me. Aye. He says, you might, out of all that 30th walk, they make it 4 of them coming back later on. As much as them boys, tell the story of the bar. And in province, maybe go to the opera house, get a ticket if you can, grab one, come to the bar, you have to experience, you have to even, as certain establishments in this town, you can't get half pints, but we can give you a half pint, He's a great fella and I love him. When I have my glasses off or whatever, I had no beard, I think I'm twins, and he's great crack too, as John, isn't he? So, people coming in and they walk in the door and out the door. You have to stand there and just take in the ambience of the place. Yeah. Even whenever the children in need were doing the charity work, when before they built up round Becker, Lennon Hall Street there, they built that big, that was a car park and all that there, so they had the outside studio. I remember the Friendship Band, it was a Friendship, and they came in through the bar and they turned around and done that. And the Sally Ann even coming in, and the acoustics, see when you hear like an old trumpet going or something, the acoustics in that bar is unbelievable. It's great. And then you had all that palaver of all, the years have changed, we've had Snow Patrol even had their, I was asked, and I says the boss, of course, every bar, you had to close at 11, what bar did. Yeah. That week, it was a big thing in 2011, so they had their after show party in the Crown. And Steve Strange and all that, they were all in the whole lot. Even Terry comes in because he's great friends with Dick Boys and stuff like that, and Hooley was in, and that was great crack that night. Great crack. Yeah. I think their bill's still sitting, but they were good crack, put up the wall. That was, even Belfast was bouncing that was a Sunday night. Yeah. Belfast was bouncing that night. Yeah. Everybody wanted to see, because they might have seen a star, and might have seen...
This was the MTV Awards,
the MTV Awards, that night, and they came in straight in after being round the City Hall, in the Crown, and they had their after show. Just to have a few beers, and
because the last job box time done was with James McGinn from Europa, and he was saying they'd hired the penthouse and done it on 5 tiers, turned into their own big nightclub, and you had Justin Bieber standing at the bar, you had Jessie J, and it was just full of celebrities, and every one of them left Belfast thinking that's an amazing city.
That's right. So you know yourself, Jerry. You are an ambassador.
Oh, totally.
You know, and you're a known figure, so maybe that's probably why I'm still there. Actually, a big man. The word to get about, he's away. He didn't do a school field anyway, but I just every day, as I say from the beginning, every day's different. You just take it. You may get slaughtered. There's days you'll be standing there twirling your thumbs, but you have to get the duster out and do a bit of buffing, or you have to clean that brass, but they have to do it,
100%.
Well,
look, Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
Jerry always likes to give away.
Yes, so as it's the job box sessions, we always give our guests about the job box.
Oh, lovely.
And you enjoy that.
I'll appreciate that, Jerry. As if I might get drinking it with the wife in the house. But I'll enjoy that. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That was a pleasure.
That's a wrap.